Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. So this is being a Dhamma talk. I thought what to start with, and just the word Dhamma, what Dhamma is. And we have these words trying to describe something, point at something, point at experience. Word is not an experience, it's just a label, it's just a sound. And when we talk to each other, we are trying to point at some kind of experience. And the word Dhamma is being used as a teaching of the Buddha, which kind of makes one think it's we can think that it's a religion. So Dhamma talk, oh yeah, it's a Buddhist religion, Buddhist views, Buddhist philosophy. The Buddha used the word Dhamma to say that it's a reality. It's, as Ajahn Sumedho would say, it's the way it is. It is truth, you can say. Something that is real, as opposed to a concept, an idea. So when we talk about experiencing Dhamma, knowing the Dhamma directly, not as a concept and philosophy, but as an experience. Seeing the Dhamma. How do we see? There needs to be some clarity of vision, clarity of understanding. So there is something to do. When Buddha talks about practice, he speaks about things that are quite understandable to us, using the words that are commonly used. Just like when we talk about something which is familiar to us, they say oat porridge. We all know what oat porridge is. We have that experience. So, using the thoughts and concepts that are familiar to us to point at something which is not. So the views, he's talking about the view, the right view of like how do we see the world, how do we understand reality, what we believe. We live in times when you can say there is no God. There are still people who believe, but in God as a kind of a creator. But generally, our society doesn't believe in God. We believe generally that life happened by chance, by accident. Or for a lot of the time we just don't even think about how life happened, how it originated, how it appeared to be, how this came to be. But the Buddha is not pointing at life just or the world just for the sake of it. Just so that we have some kind of view about it. The reason is there is stress, there is suffering, there is a burden on our hearts. We live carrying burden, and what he is pointing at is being without burden, being free from burden, being free from stress and pain, heartache. We may not think about life in these terms. We just go about our daily routines and experiences, and when we find our life difficult, then we find some kind of distraction, something to do, something to experience, something pleasant to gloss over the stress and the burden. And we need more and more of that over time. Whether it's some kind of dose of chemicals, some kind of sugar or alcohol or drug or whatever, dopamines. And gradually getting more sort of resistant to this when it doesn't really work, and finding ourselves being increasingly unhappy and depressed, stressed out, confused, unhappy. And that's where we need to look at. That's where we need to see the unhappiness, the stress, where it originates and where it ends. So the view about our existence, about life, and what is the view that leads to putting down of the burden, being free from stress, being free from confusion. The view is that things come to be because of conditions. If there is this, then there is that. When this changes, then that changes as well. So dependency, which gives us opportunity to actually do something. If the world was just an accident, if it all just happened by chance, then we are helpless victims of it, of life. There is nothing we can do about it. There is no spiritual life possible. If it was predetermined, it's also not possible. Some people believe that. Some people think that everything is predetermined and we just live out a scenario which was written for us. So are these views in line with reality? This is something for us to explore, to think about. Those are views, something people believe in. And we act on our beliefs. What we do is dependent on what we believe in. If we believe something to be good for us, we do it. Even though over time it may show that it's not. We may think that telling lies and stealing and whatnot can be advantageous, can be beneficial for us, gives us that extra opportunity to have something what we want. Without any consequences. So if you believe that, if you believe that we can do what we want as long as nobody sees, then we are all right. What does this belief lead to? what kind of behavior, what kind of state of mind, what kind of future existence, if we live like that. So the Buddha's teaching is for reflection, for contemplation, to look around at one's own experience and look at other people and see the dependency between our actions and our state of being, state of mind, state of the heart, the way we are, the way we feel. Happiness is not something that is not like a clothing that you can put on. Happiness is a state of the heart, and clothing can be comfortable and expensive and beautiful and whatnot. But happiness is not dependent on what you have, what you don't have. It's the lack of burden on the heart. That's what happiness is. The ease, the lightness, the freedom. So the view that leads to that is the view that our actions count, that being a good person counts. Our intentions come from what we believe, and what are the intentions that come from the right way of looking at life. It's the intention of non-ill will, intention of non-cruelty, intention of not harming oneself or others, intention of renunciation, not desiring to accumulate things and holding on to things, not intending to search for sensual excitements and things like that. Seeing danger in possessing. Possessing means holding on to, accumulating, gathering. So renunciation becomes intention to be free as much as we can. So he points at causes of stress, causes of suffering as craving craving for sense pleasures, craving for being, craving for, as they say, non-being, as I understand, as a kind of resentment, rejection of what we don't like, not willing to accept it and let it be. When we practice, we may get an idea that I'm not going to have any cravings. Because craving is bad, so it leads to suffering. So I don't want to have any. And then we see that it's not actually possible. It's not possible to be the person we would like to be. Just at will, just like that. Having thoughts that we would like to have. So when we see the reality of life, reality of our being, we can see that it's actually quite a conditioned, habitual organism. And even when we have all the best intentions to change it, to make it the way we want it to be, or we think which is right, we see that it actually doesn't listen. So what's the lesson in here? The lesson is that it's well, at first it has its own momentum, and if we want to change habits, we really have to be diligent and patient with that. And second, we see that it has its own life. It doesn't really listen. Only when we accept that, then we can be at ease with that. We can not suffer about our body, our mind being in a certain way, about having habits, having desires. Instincts. it can be difficult to see and confusing. We can confuse intentions and desires. Having intention to be a peaceful person, not harming anyone, and then experiencing anger, frustration, sometimes wishing to cause harm to someone, being indignant, being sometimes feeling threatened. We may want to harm somebody, have thoughts of cruelty. And then we can think, oh, I'm a bad person. We can start owning that, being confused and mistaking this as like I'm being wrong or I'm being bad. Similar with craving, sense craving, being a human with instincts, with a life force, with its own kind of conditioning to crave. We may have intention to be peaceful, but the thoughts and instincts kick in. It's interesting to see, especially for the beginners. We may feel inspired and try being celibate for some time, and it seems like it's there is no problem. But as you live longer as a monk or a nun, it may not be as easy as in the beginning, and people start having doubts and am I doing right thing and this sort of stuff. Not seeing it as natural, starting kind of owning it, like taking it as this is I've been practicing for so long and I still have lustful thoughts and that kind of stuff. Getting angry. So knowing the difference between intention and excitement, sort of instinctual desires for pleasures that we all have and manifest in some way or another. Desire to be in desire for status, desire to have influence, take positions in a community. Being more senior, you have more choices. You want to do this or that, or go someplace where you can do your own thing. Sometimes not seeing that you may be just kind of growing your little kind of don't want to say ego, but that's what comes to mind. So the intention of renunciation is what comes from the Dhamma. Intention of non-ill will, non-cruelty. We like to talk about unconditional love, about metta, about it's kind of easy to talk about, and people like that. We like to be like that. We like to be loving, and it's nice. It's rewards with a kind of happiness and ease, that the way we live. But it's actually more fundamental, it's deeper than just being a nice person. And it's more difficult to practice than being polite and friendly and thoughtful. Because unconditional love is always about not attachment. Love as we know it is always about attachment. And unconditional love is completely without attachment. So we practice non-attachment in order to experience unconditional love. When we talk about not attachment, then the response usually of the heart is that, oh, you're just being cold-hearted, you are being indifferent. That's not love. Because we are coming from what is familiar to us. So when I talk about the words that we use, using words that are familiar to us to point at something which is not, is difficult, isn't it? It's very open for misinterpretation. So even as simple as a word as unconditional love, we tend to confuse for kind of a parent spoiling the child, giving them whatever they ask for. the Dhamma is visible here and now. It's not easy to see, but it is here and now. And it's not an object. Our desires are objects, something we can observe, something we can watch. Our views, we can know them. Our intentions, we know our intentions. And eventually we must know the Dhamma. As peace, as ease of heart, as burden put down. Not as an object, not something we can describe. Our usual thinking is like there is some kind of a goal, something that we want to experience, somewhere where we want to get to. Just like I said earlier, we imagine ourselves, that's how I want to be. And maybe the kind of the lowest level is I want to be secure and happy and well-fed and popular and whatever. Have no lack in anything that I may want. That's how I want to be. Forever young, attractive and powerful. And then we try to do something to get to that goal. In the way that we imagine that will bring us. Yeah, so we kind of think about the path, how to get there. We do like 1, 2, 3, and eventually I will be there. So when we come to this to Dhamma, to practice Dhamma, we hear about happiness, highest happiness. We hear about this freedom that seems attractive. So we think, oh, he looks quite happy. That's how I want to be. And so we may start imagining, to get there, I need to do this and this and that. I need to be a good person. I need to be disciplined. I need to meditate a lot. So we make a plan and we kind of try to work ourselves towards that goal. as if Dhamma is some kind of object out there, or we try to put ourselves into that image that we have created. All that has to be put down. I'm not saying that it's wrong as a start, but it all has to be put down. Sometimes they say the right view is no view. Well, it's also kind of a view, isn't it? There is you can say wakefulness, mindfulness, being present. Ajahn Sumedho likes to use the word conscious in the present moment. So being conscious in the present moment. That opens the Dhamma as a here and now, not as some kind of goal in the future. And obviously there are obstacles to being having clarity of vision here and now. Those obstacles are clearly described and needs to be seen through. But again, it's just to come back to intentions. That's what really counts, and that's where our actions come from. Intention of non-ill will, intention of non-cruelty, intention of renunciation. So this really where the practice comes from. You can have a list of things to do and things of not to do. We can talk about different systems, like in the Ajahn Chah tradition we live like this, and in some other places they live like that. We have breakfast, they don't. So there are different ways of being, and even talking about Dhamma, different ways. And some people don't use the word Dhamma at all. They say they're not, they talk about something else, but those are just words. The words are just words. They're just labels. And they're aimed at point at some experience that is in the heart, experienced by the heart. So Dhamma is known in the heart. It's not a concept in the mind. It's not like a set of thoughts that we should have. And if we are aware of Dhamma, then we can recognize wisdom in whatever form. Wherever it comes from. Yeah, just like everything is teaching us, that's what it's all about. So having being conscious in the present and having right intention. Being conscious in the present doesn't mean we don't plan for future, but we know that this is only what exists. This is the only real moment. And be comfortable with that, be at ease with that, like accepting it. So the unconditional love, not kind of directed at a particular person, but as a state of being. State of mind, state of the heart. Anyway, I've been keeping you for quite some time now, and maybe not all that neat talk, but I hope it was for the benefit. Maybe